and Caroline Matei. My name is Alan Katana, and I'm going to take you guys through what we call technical writing, referencing, and how to check for plagiarism and how to actually check for grammar errors in our papers that you're going to write. So allow me to share my screen very quickly so that I can take you through this session, or so that we can see what this session entails. And if you can see my screen, you can as well give me a thumbs up from the reactions box. Just inform me kama unaona screen yangu pale kutoka katika reaction box, uniambie kama unaiona ama huioni. If you can see my screen, tafadhali go to the reactions box and give me a thumbs up. The likes of Renson, Kisora, Martha, Irene, I can see Irene is telling me that the screen is visible. So good. Now, in the morning, you'll be taken through the different categories of writing that you can actually venture in. Na mkambua kwamba katika kuandika kuna maandishi aina tofauti ambayo unaweza fanya kama mwandishi. Moja wapo ya aina ya maandishi ambayo unaweza kujihusisha nayo kama mwandishi is what we call technical writing. So what is this technical writing? Technical writing basically entails writing a certain paper, and this paper basically requires you to have the hard skills of that paper, or it requires you to have the technical expertise of the subject that you are supposed to write about. Kama James alipokuwa anaambia, you might be given a task. Na client akwambia je, write for me a research paper on the effects of malaria ama malaria na coronavirus, which one kills the most when it comes to Kenya. You might be asked to write such a paper. So you cannot sit down and start writing such a paper if you do not have the technical expertise of the subjects that you're supposed to write about. Because when it comes to being a technical paper, you're writing things that are factual and things that require you to have the technical know-how of that subject that the client shall have asked you to write. So we're going to see that during this session. And after that, we're going to actually see what plagiarism is and basically how we can avoid plagiarism. And we're also going to actually, try to identify if we have plagiarism, or if the papers that we're going to write contain plagiarism or not, using a tool known as a plagiarism checker. So katika kuandika, unaambia kwamba plagiarism is something that's highly prohibited. You're not supposed to send other people's ideas or thoughts as your own. And when you send a paper that's plagiarized to a client, then utakuta kwamba a client might bring that paper back to you for revision. Revision basically ni kuridu ile paper. Ama kama umepata client ambao ni mbaya, ata cancel ile contract, and that's going to serve as a disadvantage to you, because when you're working in an account like Upwork, ile client ataka review yake. Na client akipatia negative review, it will be difficult for you to convince other clients that you're the best fit person for any job that you want to play about. Kwa hivyo, let us try as much as possible to avoid plagiarism. But vile I'm going to talk about how we can avoid plagiarism, and basically how we can try to find if we contain plagiarism in our papers or not. When it comes to writing, more so when it comes to doing technical papers, you're going to be asked to references, because at some point you need to borrow ideas from places. If you're writing a paper, let's say on the effects of COVID-19, there are very many papers that have already been written by some other authors. Na itakubidi wewe kama mwandishi, you base your arguments, ama you borrow some ideas from those papers that are already written. When you borrow such an idea and you fail to actually acknowledge where you got that idea from, that's basically known as plagiarism. But in an instance, we borrowed an idea and you've acknowledged, umesema kwamba nimetoa hii idea kutoka mahali fulani, inamaanisha kwamba umefanya what you call referencing, from the word refer. Yani you are telling the author that this idea yenye nimetumia hapa nimetoka kwa mtu fulani, ama you are referring it from this source. So as a writer, you need to tell us where you got those ideas from, ama where you picked all those ideas umetumia katika karatasi yako kutoka mahali gani, and that's what we call referencing. Vile katika hii session, I'm going to take you guys through how to check for grammar errors. A writer is someone who is assumed to be well versed in grammar, and when we talk of grammar, we talk about spelling, we talk about the tenses, we talk about the diction, na vitu vingi vinginevyo. Kwa hivyo kama mwandishi, wanajulikana kwamba akona weledi katika lugha ya Kiingereza, na ukiandika karatasi yako katika lugha ya Kiingereza, basi haifai kuwa na makosa madogo ya lugha. Lakini utajuaje kwamba karatasi yangu nimeandika na haina makosa madogo ya lugha? That's when you bring a tool known as a grammar checker, which will actually help you out in checking for grammar errors. Unajua one thing with writers, one thing with writing, you might write a paper, kivyako wewe you are thinking that paper is correct, doesn't have any errors, but when you give it to someone else to correct it ama to mark it, utakuta kwamba yule msahihishaji ile karatasi anaona kwamba pale kuna makosa yanaonekana ama yaliyotokea. Kwa hivyo, before submitting a task to a client, you need to actually be very careful and make sure that the paper that you're submitting to the client doesn't contain any grammar errors. So I'll also be taking you guys through how to identify if you contain grammar errors or not in the papers that you're going to write. So those are the objectives of the day. And let us start with the theory, because this session is in two parts. We have the theory part of this session and the practical part, which will come after lunch. Kwa hivyo tukimaliza theory, tutaenda lunch for 1 hour, tutarudi hapa niwaonyeshe sasa how to do these things practically. But in the meantime, let's start with what technical writing is, the definition of technical writing. So technical writing ni kama maandishi yoyote mengineo, ama it's just like any other form of writing. But in this case, in technical writing, you're writing on a paper that requires direction, instructions, and explanations. To put it in a better way, when it comes to technical writing, you're writing about a paper that requires you to have the hard skills of that subject which you want to write about. Hard skills ni zile skills ambazo unafundishwa darasani. Kitu kama umeambiwa write a paper on mathematics. If you do not have the hard skills on mathematics, then you cannot write a paper concerning mathematics, because you do not have, or you're not versed with whatever mathematics entails. So such a paper is an example of a technical paper. What are some of the other examples of technical writings? We have instruction manuals. Sasa hivi ukienda kununua dawa pale chemist, pengine unaumwa, pengine na kifua na vitu kama hivyo, umeenda tafuta painkiller pale katika chemist. When you buy that drug, there's usually a prescription, there's usually an instruction manual inside there, inside that box. So you cannot start writing an instruction manual of a certain drug or any other item if you do not have the technical know-how of how that item operates. I hope you're getting the point there. Vile mfano mwingine wa technical writing ni policy manuals. When people are drafting policies, let's say you're working on you're working for a certain company, and they're drafting some policies that are going to guide them through their work in that company. So after those policies have been agreed upon, you need to sit down and write down those policies. So policies are not just written like any other document that is written. You need to follow a certain format, you need to follow a certain algorithm, and a certain set of rules. So if you do not have that technique, then you cannot write a policy manual. We also have processes or process manuals. Let's say or undergo certain processes. So those processes maybe for future use, or maybe for future studies, so utakuta kwamba whoever is writing down those processes is someone who is well versed with whatever thing, with whatever subject he or she is supposed to write about. We also have reports of analysis. Let's say you're analyzing something, or you're working on a certain analysis as a study in your company or organization. So after the analysis is done, you're supposed to write a report of how the analysis went, the parameters used, and everything else pertaining that analysis. If you do not have the technical know-how of that subject, then you cannot actually analyze whatever thing that they're supposed to analyze. After kuna research papers on a particular field, I'll give you an example of a company that does a lot of research in Kenya, and it's a medical company known as KEMRI. We have its headquarters we have offices in Nairobi, Kilifi, Kisumu. So KEMRI mainly does research on HIV and AIDS, malaria, na vitu kama hivyo. Na pia siku hizo wameingia story ya coronavirus. So assuming that KEMRI wanafanya research of coronavirus, na exclusively research of coronavirus vaccine. So in the process of them doing that research, washamaliza kufanya research yao, washajua kwamba corona inakuwa spread hivi na hivi na hivi, na dawa ya corona ni hii. Hiyo research lazima ndiko chini because of future use. Pengine research itataka kutumika na watu ama na students, if you're working under that, if you're in the research team, then you're supposed to actually have the technical know-how of how that research went before writing that research paper or writing that final document. I hope tumeelewana kufikia hapo. If we are good up to that point, give me a thumbs up before we continue with the next slide. Kama tumeelewana hapo katika slide ya kwanza, na kama uko na swali pia, don't hesitate asking your questions. All right, from the thumbs I can see that we are all sailing in the same boat. So let me proceed with the next slide. So let us now go and see the format of a technical paper. But before that, let me open the chat box. I can see people are saying that we are good. I know somebody is complaining that my network is not okay. Guys, is my network okay? Mtu anaweza unmute anambia kama ananisikia ama nisikii.
Nasikia.
All right, thank you. So let us now go and see the format of a technical paper. Remember that a technical paper has a certain set of algorithms that need to be followed, has a certain set of formats that you need to follow. There are some processes, there are some steps that are supposed to be shown clearly in your technical paper. Now, the first thing that is supposed to be included in the technical paper is the abstract. You need to have an abstract in your technical paper. That's the first thing that is supposed to actually appear. So what is this abstract? What is this abstract? An abstract is a summary of that long paper. Unatuandikia a summary ili mtu akiangalia ile abstract atapata ile idea kwamba katika hii paper ninaenda kusoma, then I expect to find so and so and so. That's the first thing that's supposed to appear. The abstract again is supposed to appear on its own independent page. Natumai kwamba tumeelewana hapo. The abstract is supposed to appear on its own independent page. Vile, talking of the abstract, if you have keywords that are going to use in your writings, let's say that there are some keywords that the reader is going to find more often, then you're also supposed to actually include the keywords that are going to use in that paper that you're writing. Vile, an abstract should not be more than 250 words. Remember, it is a summary. Obviously, abstract it should have at most 250 words, and it should actually come in its own independent page. And basically, the abstract gives us a summary. Gives the reader a summary of the expected thing, the things that are going to expect in that paper. After the abstract, we now need to go to the table of contents. Now, I'll explain this with an example, the table of contents. So you can download a textbook, the biology from 3. When you buy a biology textbook, let's say, from 3, ukitaka topic ya plants ama topic ya speed development na vitu kama hivyo, ukienda pale katika table of contents utakuta kwamba kuna ile topic imeindicatwa pale na umepewa page number. In that ukifungua ile page number utapata ile table of contents. So in your paper, or the paper that you're going to write, you're supposed to include the table of contents because that's going to serve as a roadmap. In case someone wants to actually allocate certain information in your paper, sio lazima atafute information manually ama si lazima atafute topic manually. Anaenda pale katika table of contents, which basically serves as a roadmap. Your table of contents itamwambiaje? Itamwambia if you want to locate certain information in this paper, then go to this page. Basically, the table of contents is there to ease the process of identifying some content in your paper or in the paper that you're going to write. Thereafter, we need to go to the introduction. Now, the introduction is made up of two things. The introduction is made up of an overview of that paper and the thesis statement. So the introduction is made up of two things. It's made up of an overview and a thesis statement. But before I talk about the introduction, back to the table of contents. When you're giving us a table of contents, you are supposed to actually have that table of contents in its own independent page. The table of contents should come in its own independent page. The table of contents should also come in its own independent page. All right, so let us proceed with the next thing. Tukiendelea katika introduction. So the introduction basically gives us a view, just a view. It's like a view overview. A brief overview of whatever thing that you're discussing about. So you're just giving us a brief introduction, a brief overview of whatever thing that you're discussing about in your paper. And after the thesis statement now basically appears on the conclusion of that introductory paragraph of your introduction part. So chandika overview or the overview statement, then just under the overview statement, we're supposed to give us the thesis statement. So the thesis statement basically offers a summary of the main discussion points or the points that are going to discuss there. Kama main discussion point yako ni HIV and AIDS, then we're going to actually give us the summary of that main discussion point in your entire paper. So I hope we are together to that point. Thereafter, after the introduction, we now need to go to the main body. So the main body of your technical paper contains all the arguments, all the processes, all the results, all the discussions, and everything else that you want to give out, everything else that you want to write about concerning the subject that the client has asked you to write about. That should come under the main body section. Thereafter, you go to the conclusion part of your paper. The conclusion now, you state the thesis statement. And the thesis statement offers a summary of the main points, the main statement that you're discussing about in that paper of yours. If you're discussing about, let's say, a coronavirus, then katika conclusion utarestate ile thesis statement. The thesis statement basically haizidi more than 2 lines. Ni ka line kama kamoja ama viwili tu, because we're just giving us a summary of the main discussion points. So after giving us that summary, then you go ahead and now restate the main points. Now, in the conclusion, when you are restating the main discussion points, you're not supposed to elaborate them. Why? Because you've already elaborated in the main body section. Kwa hivyo pale katika conclusion unatuambia kwamba okay, these were the main points, lakini you're not expounding on them because they've already been expounded when it comes to the main body of your paper. Thereafter, you need to go to the references page. So on the references page, you're going to give us, or you're going to actually refer to the places where you extracted your references from. Now, what do I mean when I talk of references? Assuming that you are writing and borrowed ideas from different areas. So, ukisha borrow idea, lazima acknowledge, tuambie kwamba I got this idea from this part. So, katika references page, ndo pale mahali tutakuwa natuambia je, zile ideas zenye nimetumia katika karatasi yangu nimezitoa mahali fulani. Now, when it comes to references, you're going to write references in the style that the client atakuwa amekwambia utumie. We have different styles. We have the APA style, we have the MLA style, we have the Harvard style, we have the Chicago style, we have the Vancouver, and many other styles that are there. So you're going to use a reference style that basically the client shall have asked you to use when it comes to writing your paper. Alafu, if you have any additional information or any auxiliary information, you're supposed to include that information in the appendix page. So the auxiliary information zinaweza kuwa mazisiwe because basically zinatupatia tu any other additional information lakini sio mandatory. So that's the format of a technical paper. So to conclude on the format, each part should come in its own independent page. I repeat, that's very important. Usichanganye abstract na table of contents. Abstract inakaa peke yake, table of contents inakaa peke yake, introduction inakaa peke yake, the main body now pia inakaa peke yake, lakini main body haimaanishi kwamba ni page moja. Main body can even cover 100 pages because that's where you're going to give us, the discussions, the arguments, and everything else that you want to talk about in your paper. After the main body, now when you come to the conclusion, it should also come in its own independent page. The references vile vile zinakuwa katika independent page yake, alafu the appendix pia inakuja katika independent page yake. Now let's talk about the title of your technical paper. Now, kila maandishi lazima yaanze na title. Now when you're giving us a title of a technical paper, then the title should be centered. I hope we all know about alignment. Unajua ku align kitu, kuna center alignment, kuna left alignment, kuna right alignment. Lakini kama unaandika technical paper, ile title yako inafaa kuwa center. Alafu title yako ufai ku bold. You're not supposed to bolden your title. Neither should you underline that title. Kama let's say you're writing about HIV and AIDS, the effects of HIV and AIDS in Kenya. So that's your title. Unatuandikia pale ile title yako, unaiweka center pale ile page yako. Alafu ile title ufai ku bolden na vile vile ufai ku underline ile title. Alafu, the title should not exceed more than 12 words. The title of your technical paper should not exceed more than 12 words. I hope we're together up to that point. So tukiendelea, let us see about referencing, or let us talk about referencing, and in this case, referencing online work. So you'll be given a paper by a client, and will write for me this paper on this subject. Now, it has forced you to go ahead and borrow ideas from other areas. So when you've borrowed ideas from other areas, you're supposed to include all the sources in that paper. What do I mean here? When you borrow ideas, you need to extract those ideas from different sources. So kama umetumia ideas, let's say 20, umezitoa katika sources 20, then you're supposed to include all the sources zenye umetoa zile ideas ambazo umetumia katika karatasi yako. So kama umetumia ideas 40 from 40 different sources, include all those sources. Because failure to do that, you shall have done what you call plagiarism. Sababu umefail ku acknowledge ni mahali gani umetoa ile idea yako, hiyo umetumia katika maandishi yako. So when it comes to now including the sources in your papers, you are going to do what you call in-text citations, or what you call citations. So assuming that you're writing a paper on the effect of HIV and AIDS, and umesema kwamba as a study done by WHO, basically that statement shows that the idea is not yours, it belongs to WHO. So after that idea, you need to give us an in-text citation telling us, I got this idea from this place. I hope tunaelewana hapo. So after each borrowed idea in your paper, you're supposed to in-text, do an inside the text citation by telling us that I got this idea from this place. So you're supposed to include all in-text, and in this case, use the correct form and punctuation for each in-text. Utakuta kwamba when doing in-text citations, there are different formats according to the style that you're using. If you're using APA style, utakuta kwamba APA style kuna format yake tofauti na MLA style. So kama unatumia, let's say, MLA style, then you're supposed to follow the correct form and punctuation for that in-text citation they're going to be giving us in your paper. So the thesis statement should appear in the first paragraph. If you're writing an essay now, let's say that you're writing an essay. Essay inafaa kuandika katika njia ya muendelezo. It's supposed to be written in a continuous format. I'll take you back to high school when you used to write essays. Essays are plants, essays are nini. Unakuta kwamba ulikuwa unaandika essay, you just give the main heading, alafu just write in a continuous form without labeling paragraphs with headings. Natumai kwamba tumeelewana mpaka hapo. So unaandika tu the main title, alafu unaandika katika njia ya muendelezo. Alafu write a new or original title for each subject that you're writing about, assuming that you'll be given to write about like 3 subjects. Then when you're writing about 3 subjects, then give us a title for each subject that you're writing about. And the title has the following attributes. It should not actually be underlined. It should be centered. It should not exceed more than 12 words. I'll have to make sure that you understand how to write and format references in the reference to use, and each fact that you use in the different referencing styles that you're going to use. We have the American Psychological Association style. That's one of the styles that utakuwa unatumia katika kufanya references zako pale. Kuna Modern Language Association style, that's MLA. We have the Harvard style. Now for AMA, many times this style is used by people who write medical papers, medical journals na vitu kama hivyo. Watu kufanya papers za medicine wanatumia AMA, lakini sisi wengine kama unaandika tu normal articles na vitu kama hivyo, tunatumia APA, MLA, Harvard, Chicago. Vile vile the most commonly used styles are APA and MLA. Hizo ndio zile ambazo utakuwa unaambiwa utumie many times. Although hizo zingine pia kina Harvard kwa zinatumika lakini sio sana. So when writing a technical paper, or a technical paper also has the following attributes. You're supposed to write your paper in font 12. That's the font size. 12. Alafu the style is Times New Roman. So come on, Roman. Alafu you're supposed to do what you call double spacing. So what is this double spacing? Double spacing inamaanisha kwamba after each word you're supposed to give us a double space. See, unaandika paper yako yote hapo kwanza, go ahead and now select the attribute double spacing. I'll be showing you how to go about that. And each page of your technical paper should not exceed more than 300 words. So those are elements that are supposed to put into consideration, especially when writing technical papers. So when you want to use references, when you want to borrow ideas that you want to use in your paper, you need to actually extract those references from places. And where are some of the references extracted? We have references from JSTOR. Vile pia unaweza extract references from CiteFirst. Hello. Is my screen visible? Someone to actually let me know. Okay, Mercy is saying that my screen is visible. Okay, so let's talk about plagiarism. Plagiarism is copying someone else's thoughts or ideas and using them as your own without acknowledging where you got those ideas from. So as a writer, when you're doing your writing, umepewa paper na client, amekwambia write for me on this subject. Uende ukachukue kazi ya mtu ama uende ukabora ideas mahali, alafu incorporate zile ideas katika maandishi yako, alafu usi acknowledge ama usifanye what you call referencing, then basically utakuwa umefanya what you call theft in writing, and that's something that is highly prohibited. But how can we avoid plagiarism? Avoid copy pasting content from websites. There are some people ama some writers ambao write something ama write a paper on something, anaenda katika internet ana copy paste kazi ya mtu alafu ana submit ya client. When you submit a task to a client, before they approve that task ama before they release funds to you, they need to do what we call verification. They need to go ahead and verify kwamba hii kazi iko sawa ama haiko sawa. And one of the things when it comes to verification that is usually done is taking that paper through what we call a plagiarism checker. To detect kama kuna plagiarism ama hakuna. In an instance where plagiarism has been detected, when you get a good client, anaweza regesha ile paper for what we call revision. But when you get a bad client, ile nini inaweza kuwa cancelled, alafu ile bad client anakupatia bad reviews. So when you get bad reviews in your accounts, utakuta kwamba getting jobs from other clients ama convincing other clients to give you jobs will be difficult because your profile indicates that you have a bad review. So avoid copy pasting content from websites. Vile when you borrow ideas, make sure that you reference your quotes and the sources. Tuambie kwamba hii idea yenye natumia hapa nimetoa mahali fulani, because failure to do so utakuwa umeiba kazi ya mtu, because you just not acknowledged whoever was the owner of that idea. Paraphrase your content. In an instance where you've been told to us to write about something, make sure that you go online, read through that thing, and then paraphrase it. Put it down in your own words, because basically utakuwa unatumia idea ya mtu lakini huandiki venye iko ama huandiki venye yule mtu aliandika. Sababu gani? Unaandika katika maneno yako mwenyewe. So that's one of the ways into which you can avoid plagiarism. Alafu conduct a good research about the topic. Make sure that you actually are well versed with the topic and you know what the topic wants. With that, then utakuta kwamba unapata mawazo ya kuandika ama utapata ile knowledge ama ujuzi wa kuandika na haitakuforce uende ukacopy kazi ya mtu. At some point you might write a paper, lakini hujui kama kuna plagiarism or not. And before submitting a paper to a client, it is noble that you take it through a plagiarism check and uangalie karatasi yangu, je, is it plagiarized or not? Ukipata kwamba iko plagiarized, then you go ahead and correct the mistakes. Unajua kuna kitu kimoja, unatuma paper ambayo wewe mwenyewe uko sure kwamba iko sahihi ama uko sure kwamba iko sawa. That's something that basically gives you a lot of confidence and such stuff. Lakini unatuma paper kwa client na hauko sure kama paper yangu iko sahihi ama si. So for you to avoid all that, make sure that before submitting a paper to a client, you take it through what you call a plagiarism checker, which is going to actually automatically detect kama kuna plagiarism or no plagiarism in your writings. So with that, then we've come to the end of the theory session of, the theory part of this session. It is 12:04. So we're supposed to extract your references from a Google Scholar. We have we have Google Scholar website, first website this for me. We have JSTOR. Those are some of the places where you can extract your references from. So right about now, let me take you guys through how to extract references from Google Scholar. And Google Scholar is one of the Google applications. So I'll be sharing the URL in the chat box for Google Scholar, so that in your own free time, you can go check it out and see or familiarize yourselves with how Google Scholar works. So katika chat box pale, nawekea link ya Google Scholar. The URL is scholar.google.com. So copy that URL somewhere so that in your own free time, you can go check it out and see how it works. But in the meantime, let me show you practically how we can actually extract references from Google Scholar. Na kama utakuwa kuna swali tafadhali utaniuliza na tuweze kusaili in the same boat. So I hope you can all see. So the screen that you're seeing there is a Google Scholar interface, a place where you can extract references from. So how do you go about extraction of references? But before I even show you how to extract, we need to understand what extraction means. For extract ni kuchukua kitu mahali kutoka mahali kwingine ama kuderive kitu kutoka mahali fulani. That's basically what we mean when we talk about extraction. So references pia huwa zinakuwa extracted kutoka mahali ndio uweze kuziweka katika paper yako. So how is that process done? One of the sites is Google Scholar. So ukienda pale katika browser yako, uende katika scholar.google.com, you're going to be brought to this interface. Na katika hii interface ya Google Scholar, we have this part that I'm circling here, this search box. So katika hii search box hapa, this is the place where you're going to actually put the title of that paper which you want to extract references for. If you be given a task by a client, I'm write for me a paper about effects. Can someone give us a title? Anyone who has a title in mind? A technical title that way, in that manner? Anyone? Unmute yourself. Tuambie ni title gani nataka tutumie. Anyone? Just think of any title. Lucky Pinto. Mambo vipi? Mr. Pinto, for me about the effects of climate change in Kenya. And you want to extract references for that title. Kumbuka kwamba there are very many authors who already did a paper that same subject. Ama there are very many published documents ambazo zimekuwa published ziko katika internet na vitu kama hivyo. So when you're writing such a paper, you need to borrow ideas from these other people who already wrote about the same subjects that you want to write about, because you don't know, wewe hautajua kila kitu about effects of climate change. So itabidi uka-extract some ama ukaborrow some ideas kutoka mahali. So ukishaborrow ideas zile, lazima ufanye what you call an acknowledgement. And the way you do acknowledgement in writing is basically by doing what you call referencing. Una refer, utuambia kwamba I got this idea from this part. So those references are usually extracted. So how do you extract references from Google Scholar? Hapa mahali nimesako kuna hii search box, utakuja utakale title ya paper ambayo unaandika, and in our case the title is Effects of Climate Change. in Kenya. After search. Okay, search pale. One thing that I need you guys to see is that there are very many papers that are written or that were written concerning effects of climate change. Kuna hii ya kwanza hapa zenye nazitia tiki, kuna ya pili, kuna ya tatu, kuna ya nne, kuna ya tano. There are very many papers that were written, and these papers were written in different times. Kuna zenye ziliandikwa 2001, zenye zimeandikwa 2017, pengine kuna za 2012, pengine kuna za 2018 na vitu kama hivyo vyote. So let me go back a little bit so that I can elaborate on something. I hope we've all seen how we can actually add the subject so that we can extract references. Tunakuja tunaweka pale katika search box. Lakini vile vile Google Scholar allows us to extract references for articles hapa hivi, na pia vile vile for case laws. So what do we mean when we talk about case laws? Case laws basically itakuja kwa wale watu ambao wanaandika papers to do with law. Kama unataka ku extract references for papers to do with law, unakuja una click on case laws hapa hivi. Ukiklik katika case laws, utaulizwa unataka ku extract references ya case laws ya paper ambazo zimetoka katika koti zipi. Kuna federal courts, kuna California courts. So select the court yenye unataka kutumia ama court yenye unataka kutumia paper zake. There are very many other courts pia. Ukienda hapo kwa hii other option ya select courts, when you click on it, you realize that there are very many courts, millions of courts. So utaklik pale unataka ku extract references kutoka kwa paper ambazo ziliandikwa ama ni paper za koti ipi. Kama ni koti za Kenya, kama ziko pale utaselect tuwekee pale, alafu you're going to actually receive those papers and then you extract the references from it. So articles, basically any other form of writing that is not part of case laws, no articles. Kwa hivyo kuna paper za COVID-19, paper za AIDS, paper za technology, una click pale ka articles, alafu unaweka ile title yako pale and then you search. So I have searched here and I've got very many papers. So when you want to extract references, you're usually told to go for the most recently published papers. Extract references from papers that are the most recently published papers. So how recent? Someone might ask me that question. How recent? Is it 2021? Is it the 2020? Is it the 2019? Ama vipi? Now, we have what we call a custom range when it comes to extracting references. And in the custom range, you're supposed to go for papers that are not more than 5 years old from the time that you are living in. Kama unaishi 2030, then you're supposed to extract references from papers that were written up to 2025. Kama unaishi mwaka wa 2045, then unaenda paka 2040. Mimi sijui unaishi mwaka gani, you know, we have different calendars. Mimi naweza kupata kwa 2050 sahi. But anyway, that's by the way. So when extracting references, go for the most recently published papers. And in this case, how recent? You need to actually go for papers that were written not more than 5 years ago. So click hapo katika custom range iko hapa. And I hope that all of you guys are following keenly. Hapa hivi, unaenda kwa custom range. You click custom range, utapata hizo box mbili zenye zinakuallow sasa kuandika ile miaka yenye unataka upate zile papers. Now, kama client amekwambia go for papers that were published 2021, utaklik to 2021. Kama ni za 2020 hivyo, lakini kama hajakwambia, then go for papers that are the most recently published. And in this case, do not go for papers that were published more than 5 years ago. Kwa hivyo hapo utaandika kwa mwaka gani? 2021 2021. Utaandika hapa 2021 mpaka 2017. I hope that's 5 years. Hapo uta search. So when you click that, utakuta kwamba zile paper ambazo zitatokea hapa katikati na maanisha wapi? Na maanisha hapa hivi. The papers that are going to be here, this part, all these papers ambazo ziko hapa katikati are papers that were published between the year 2017 to the year 2021. So let me stop sharing so that I can use the annotation and then keep on sharing. I want to use the annotation and then proceed with the sharing. All right. So now we have papers that were published between the year 2021 and 2017. And how will you actually verify that these papers ni za hiyo miaka? Kiangalia hapa hivi. I hope kila mtu anafuatilia. Kiangalia hapa hivi 2018. Nyingine hapa imeandikwa 2017. Nyingine hapa imeandikwa 2018. Nyingine imeandikwa 2017. So utapata paper ambazo ziko in that time frame. Natumai kwamba tumeelewana mpaka hapo. If we are together at that point, give me a thumbs up before we continue the next thing. Tuko pamoja. So now you want to extract references for this first paper. Hii hapa ya climate change and food security in Kenya, assuming that we want to extract references from that first paper. How do you extract references now? That's another thing that you need to actually take a keen look on. Ukishafungua katika Google, unaona paper yako ile pale. Sasa, ukitaka ku extract references, is this part here, hii yenye kuna arrow, inakaa kama quotation, hiyo hapo. That part where there's an arrow. Hapo mnaiona, which actually inafanana na kama quotation hivi. Hiyo yenye circle hapo kwa hiyo arrow. Click on that part. When you click on that part, utakuta kwamba we have the citations, and we have the references in different referencing styles. Tumeelewana mpaka hapo guys? Have we understood that a step which I've taken? We have kindly confirmed by giving me a thumbs up. I'ma just type yes in the chat box if you have understood where chat box. If you haven't understood how we've got there, type no in the chat box. Hivyo basi, ukishafika pale ushapata zile references na client alikuwa amekwambiaje extract ama use references in APA style. So how do you go about extracting that reference? Hapa bado hatuja extract, tumeiona tuna kitu tunataka extract. We want to now pick it up and put it in our paper. So how do you go about that? Kuja tu hapa hivi kwa APA, highlight all of it, copy it and paste it in your references page in that paper that you're writing about, and that's what we call extraction. It is as simple as that. Now, there's also an element that I need us to tell. Yes, there's something. Diambo in the chat box is asking, the in-text citation is similar to referencing, or rather, how is it done? I'll show you that. Don't you worry. I'll show you how to do in-text citations. Right now, we're extracting references, and these references are going to actually help us out in doing what we call in-text citations, because each in-text is supposed to come from the reference. Yani, hizo in-text derive kutoka katika references. Kwa hivyo tunaanza na how to extract references, because we cannot do an in-text, or an in-text cannot be there if it doesn't appear in the reference. I hope you're good. Austin Odhiambo, kama tumeelewana Austin hapo natia thumbs up. Ama unmute tunaambia tumeelewana. Ndo niendelee katika element nyingine. Okay, Austin amesema kwamba tumeelewana. So, I want to ask to take a keen look on my screen. Take a keen look on my screen, Check MLA. Let us all take a keen look on MLA. Na natumai kwamba kila mtu anaiona. So, utakuta kwamba MLA iko tofauti na APA. Na kwako wewe mwenye ni mgeni katika maswala, pengine hujaitumia mambo ya referencing, you might not see the difference, but there's a very big difference between MLA and APA. So with MLA, unaona jina la kwanza ni Kabubo Mariara, alafu kuna Jane and Millicent Kabara. Nenda katika APA, kuna Kabubo Mariara, kuna J and Kabara. Now, take a look at the and ya APA and the and ya MLA. Who can spot the difference? Atuambie. Anyone who spotted the difference? Akasema Magdalene J anasema MLA ni and APA ni upper ile ya hivi, upper. So that's the difference, one of the differences. Vile take a keen look on MLA. After the word Millicent Kabara, utakuta kwamba kuna climate change and food security. That's the title of the book. And you extract references from. That's the title of the book. Alafu, the year of publication is 2018. Now, let me just keep it simple. With MLA, it starts with the author's name, the year of publication. I mean, the author's name, the title of the book, and then the year of publication. Tunaanza pale na the author's hojaliandikisho kitabu. The book that you're extracting references from was written by Kabubo, Jane, and Millicent. And after that, or after the author's name, we go to the title of the book which you're extracting references from. You're extracting your references from a book titled Climate Change and Food Security in Kenya. Whatever hapo sijui Routledge 2018. So MLA inaanza na author's name, title of the book, and then the year of publication. The book was published in the year 2018. When it comes to APA, inaanza na majina ya authors, year of publication, and then title of the book, and then page number yenye extract your reference kutoka. And here unaona kwamba ni 55 mpaka 80. I hope you're getting that difference. I hope I'm not talking alone. If we are together at that point, type 1 in the chat box. Kama umeelewa, kama umeona hiyo difference, type 1 in the chat box. Magdalena ameiona na ameelewa hiyo tofauti. Jacksoni pia, Rensoni pia, Beatrice. Kama umeelewa, tafadhali nitapie moja katika kisanduku pale. Irene pia anasema ameelewa. Ruth pia anasema ameelewa. Aha. So that's how you go about extracting references from Google Scholar. So I want to show you how to extract references from sites. This for me, from SiteFirst. I want to show you how to extract references from SiteFirst. And in this case, katika SiteFirst, I'll show you how to extract references from websites. Unajua at some point, unaweza borrow ideas kutoka katika web pages. Tumekuwa tunaelewana, unaweza borrow ideas katika web pages. And that's basically one advantage of using SiteFirst. Unakuta kwamba SiteFirst iko na advantage moja, inakupatia hiyo fursa ya ku-extract references from web pages, lakini Google Scholar hii ni kutoka kwa maandishi ama katika vitabu, published documents na vitu kama hivyo. So we've seen how you can extract references from books and published documents ama articles using Google Scholar. So how do you extract references from web pages? Assuming that you borrowed ideas from web pages, you'll extract it. So give me a minute, niwatumie URL ya site nini. Alafu in your own free time you can as well go check it out, how it works, mfanye practice na vitu kama hizo. Kuonyesha ni SiteFirst hii ambayo naenda kuonyesha, inaitwa SiteFirst. Na watumia URL yake pale katika chat box, so that in your own free time you can go practice and see how SiteFirst works, how you can extract references from either books, from whatever's na vitu kama hivyo kutumia platform ya SiteFirst. So katika chat box pale nawekea link, na link ndio hiyo ambayo naiweka hapo, ni www.sitefirst.com. That's the URL for SiteFirst. Alafu basi, allow me to share my screen very, very quickly so that we can all see how SiteFirst works, and then we'll proceed for lunch. Okay. So if you are seeing my screen, you can just give me a thumbs up. If this screen ya SiteFirst inaonekana, just give me a thumbs up. Haya, inasemekana kwamba screen yangu inaonekana. Sasa basi, SiteFirst is also one of the sources where you can extract references from, and SiteFirst has an advantage in that with SiteFirst it gives you many options. You can extract references from web pages, au kunaiona hapo. You can extract references from books, from journals, and from other materials hapa hivi. So assuming that you want to extract references from books, utakuja utaklik hapa kwa books, take your cursor there and click book. Kama unataka ku extract references from journals, utaklik pale kwa journals. Kama unataka ku extract references kutoka katika web pages, click web page. Kama ni kwa other materials, click other. Haya basi. Vile vile katika SiteFirst iko na advantage moja, na advantage ya SiteFirst ni kwamba the styles, the referencing styles akina APA, MLA, Chicago na vitu kama hivyo, inakuonyesha the latest versions of the styles, ama inakuonyesha the editions of the styles. Now, when you're using SiteFirst na unafanya referencing ama una extract references, make sure that you extract references that are in the the most recent published edition, ama the most recent released edition. And in this case, ukiangalia hapa juu kuna APA 7. Inamaanisha ni APA edition 7. Kuna APA edition 6. Kuna MLA edition 8. Kuna Chicago, alafu kuna MLA edition 7 huku kando. Have we seen all that thing? Kama umeona type yes in the chat box if you've seen that thing that I'm now talking about. If you've seen the things that I'm talking about, the APA edition 7, APA edition 6, MLA edition 8, MLA edition 7, Chicago, blah blah blah. Kama umeziona, anaona pale bwana Renson Gisora anasema kwamba tuko pamoja. Jackson Jorogi is saying that we are all together, and I can also see who else who is saying that we are together. Beatrice pia anasema kwamba tuko pamoja. Vile vile katika screen yangu unaona Irene anatupatia thumbs up kumaanisha kwamba pia yeye ako pamoja nasi. Okay. So, client amekwambia extract your references in APA style. Na tunaona kwamba pale kuna version 7, kuna edition 6. Kama amespecify tumia edition 6, utaenda kwa 6. Kama haja specify, go for the most released edition, which is APA edition 7. All right. So we now want to extract references from a web page. So, ukitaka to extract references from a web page, let me stop sharing so that you can all go to a web page, and I'll show you how now you can go about extracting references from a web page. Utaenda katika ile page yako. The title ambao tulikuwa tunatumia ni gani? Someone remind me. Effects of the climate, Was it effects of climate? Someone confirm? I think it was effects of climate change in Kenya, if I'm not wrong. References from our page. Utaenda katika web page yako. No, is Wikipedia web page? Someone confirm. Unajua kuna tofauti hapa. Is Wikipedia web page? Jamaa, Wikipedia ni web page ama?
Ni web page.
Thank you. So, unataka ku extract references from a web page. Na mambo andike about effects of climate change in Kenya. Unaenda pale katika Wikipedia. Ukifika katika Wikipedia pale, na unataka ku extract references kutoka kwake, utakuja utacopy URL hapa juu. Come and copy the URL up here. I hope you all seeing that part. Let me annotate it so that you can see it clearly. This part that I'm circling is where the URL is. n.wikipedia.org. Hiyo ndio URL ya Wikipedia. So unakuja copy hii URL hii hapa kwanza https Control+C unaicopy. Ukishaicopy, stop sharing, unarudi kule kwa site site first. So let me go back to site first. Let me share the screen ya site first. You go back to the site first screen. So ukifika pale katika site first screen, hapa mahali pameandikwa hivi, this part that I'm circling. Imeandikwa enter URL. Enter URL. You come and paste that URL in that part. Come and paste that URL there. Control+V. You paste URL ya Wikipedia. Ukisha paste, click on this search button. Una search pale. So site first is and it is actually going to derive the references for you. And in this case, hatujachagua ni style gani, acha nichague hapa APA. Unaona nasemaje, change style. You lose the citation you are entering. All citations will change to the new style. Please review your citations after changing. Just tap okay. I want it in APA. Nikuje niweke URL yangu pale tena. Halafu ni search ndo nipate differences in APA style. I hope you are seeing that. If we are together up to that point, type together in the chat box. Kama tumeelewana katika jinsi ya kutype ile URL pale. Kama tumeelewana paka hapo. Can see Jabir Yasin anasema kwamba we are selling it the same boat. Renson pia vile anasema yes, kumaanisha kwamba tuko very together. Ruth Muiruri pia anasema kwamba dau linasonga vyema. Haya, Irene pia kule ananipatia thumbs up kumaanisha kwamba we are all dancing to the same music. Okay, so you've now searched there. Na unakuta kwamba kumetokea vipekele vingi sana pale after searching. But what you're interested in is this one. Hapa chini imeandikwa current citation. Unaiona? If you can see current citation, what should we do? Tumetumia yes nyingi sana katika chat box. If you can see current citation, give me a thumbs up. Let's use the reactions now. If you can see current citation, yenye nimescircle pale. If you can see current citation, that's the thing that you're interested in. Give me a thumbs up if you can see current citation. So, hii katika current citation hapa, come and click on save citation. There's a save button. Come and click save citation. Alafu utakuta kwamba the citations are going to load. So after the citation has loaded, it is going to appear on this side of the screen. Hii part. Hii hapa hivi. Now the citation that we want to work with is this one. Are we seeing it? Have we seen it? If we have seen it, type 2 in the chat box. If we have seen the reference, type 2 in the chat box. Good. I can say Austin Odhiambo is following keenly. Anasema kwamba he has seen it. Vile Bwana Renson Kisiora is saying that he has seen it. Alafu kuna Samuel Mundia alafu kuko na Magdalene J, kuna Ruth Mwiruri, Jabir Yasin. Alright, so hiyo inamaanisha kwamba unacheza mziki mmoja. Okay, so if you now want to actually extract this one, what do you do? Kuja hapa chini yake kumeandikwaje 2 citations saved. Let me delete this one hapa chini because we are not interested in it. Tubaki na moja. So give me a minute. Let me delete the one that we don't want to work with so that we can remain with the one, not to confuse watu. What is happening with this Google Ads? Delete this thing. Delete it. Yes. Okay. So tumebaki na ile moja peke yake. Sitaki confuse watu, lakini kama unafanya hizo extractions utakuta kwamba kile ukiweka pale inatumia katika references page, so you can have very many according to the number of references that you are, the number of extractions that you are doing. So we are left with this one. We are left with this one. So if you want to know how to extract this one, kuja hapa copy and paste. Kuna copy and paste button. Ukisha copy and paste button utakuta kwamba inakwambia select all. After selecting all, then you copy it and paste it to your references page. If we have understood up to that point, type 3 in the chat box. Kama tumeelewana kufikia hapo, type 3 katika chat box pale. Good. You can see that we are all good. Haya basi. So umeweka ile reference pale katika reference page yako. Lakini Sitefast pia iko na one advantage, ama iko na faida moja ambao ni ipi? Inakupatia paka ile in-text citation. Kumbuka kwamba reference yenye tumeextract unaweka katika references page, lakini vile vile katika maandishi yako zile ideas, after that idea you need to do what we call an in-text citation. So hii Sitefast iko na faida moja ambao pia faida yake ni ipi? Inatupatia ile in-text. Si lazima tuende tukaiandike manually. Unakuja unatoa ile in-text from this part here. So I hope you can see where I'm highlighting ama where I'm actually pointing. Kuna mahali kumeandikwa in-text hapa hivi. Kuna mahali kumeandikwa in-text. So kama click on that part ya in-text. When you click the in-text, utakuta kwamba inakuonyesha in-text yenye unafaa kutumia katika maandishi yako, and the in-text is this one. So you come and copy that in-text and put it in your writings. I'll show you how to go about it mchana. Najua pengine nimeconfuse watu kidogo. Lakini that's how you derive an in-text citation from Sitefast, which is also an advantage compared to Google Scholar. Na ndio maana hata mimi mwenyewe napenda kutumia Sitefast. Sababu Sitefast yani imesimplify kila kitu. Hata in-text inakupatia, references itakupatia, in-text citations inakupatia, na vitu kama hivyo vyote. Now, one thing that you need to understand before you go for lunch is that these in-text usually come from the references. Ukiangalia in-text imeandikaje, climate change in Kenya 2018, inatoka hapa hivi. Na ndio maana kama unaandika kama mwanafunzi wa university, if you're doing your final project alafu umefanya in-text citations, yule mwalimu atajuaje kwamba hizi in-text ni za uongo? Atajua vipi? Atajua sababu gani? Akiangalia katika references page na zile in-text tumeweka hazioani, because you have not extracted your in-text from the references. One of the ways that identify kwamba huyu mtu ametafanya vitu zake shangala bagal. Because one thing that you also need to understand before you go for lunch is that your final research, your final project that you do in university falls under the category technical writing. And if you haven't reached your final year in campus, you'll do what we call in-text citations, referencing na vitu kama hivyo vyote. Kwa hivyo, I hope that we are together up to that point. Kama tumeelewana kufika hapo, tafadhali you can turn on your videos. I need to see you guys.